On the surface, this sounds absurd. Why would the United States want to buy Greenland? Why would a modern president talk about acquiring a massive icy island that most people associate with glaciers, polar bears, and remote fishing villages? And why in 2025 and 2026 has President Trump returned to this idea with even more urgency, calling it not just a deal, but a necessity for national and world security? Here's the truth. This is all about power. It's about military power, economic power, and energy power, and control in the next major shift in global geography. Greenland sits at the intersection of defense, resources, trade, climate change, and Arctic melts. What used to be inaccessible is now becoming strategically priceless. If you want to understand where global power is heading over the next 50 years, you need to understand why Greenland suddenly matters and why the United States does not want China or Russia to get there first. Welcome back to the channel where business, money, and investing actually make sense. Do me a quick favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It really helps the channel grow. It helps me keep putting out clear, practical content like this out every week. All right. Let's get into it. To understand why Greenland suddenly matters, you need to stop thinking in terms of the maps that you saw in school. Most flat maps distort reality. When you look at the world from above, from the North Pole, Greenland isn't on the edge of the map. It's at the center. Greenland sits directly in between North America, Europe, and Russia. And most importantly, it lies along the shortest flight path for intercontinental ballistic missiles traveling between major nuclear powers. That's why the US has operated a base there for decades. That base there has been a cornerstone in the American missile warning system since the Cold War. But here's the key shift. What was once a listening post is now being viewed as a launch and interception platform. President Trump has repeatedly referenced a proposed missile defense initiative referred to as the Golden Dome. Think of it as the next evolution of missile defense. Not just ground-based interceptors, not just radar, but a multi-layered shield combining space-based sensors, advanced radar arrays, and interceptors positioned at optimal geographic choke points. And Greenland is one of those choke points. From Greenland, the US can detect missile launches earlier, intercept threats sooner, and reduce reaction time from minutes to seconds. In modern warfare, seconds matter. That's why Trump has framed Greenland not as a luxury, but as a strategic necessity. From his perspective, allowing adversaries to gain influence there would be like giving up high ground in a battlefield, something no military strategist would be willing to do. Another reason for this is protecting power in the Arctic. Defense isn't just about missiles, it's also about pressure. Greenland gives access to Arctic naval routes, airspace control, and submarine monitoring corridors. Russia has already understood this. Over the past decade, Russia has reopened Cold War-era Arctic bases, deployed nuclear-powered icebreakers, and militarized sections of the Northern Sea Route. China, meanwhile, has taken a quieter approach. They call themselves a near-Arctic state. That term alone should raise eyebrows. China has attempted to fund Greenland airports, invest in mining operations, and gain long-term infrastructure access. From the U.S. point of view, this isn't about investment, it's about positioning. History shows that infrastructure often precedes influence, and influence often precedes control. Trump has been blunt about this. He has argued that Denmark lacks resources and strategic urgency to fully secure Greenland against long-term encroachment of rival powers. Here's the real economic driver, which is rare earth minerals. Now let's talk about the money, because this is where things get really interesting. Greenland is sitting on one of the largest untapped mineral reserves on Earth. And not just any minerals, we're talking about rare earth minerals. Here's why those minerals matter. Because without those rare earths, it reduces our ability to make smartphones, electric vehicles, wind turbines, and advanced weapon systems. Right now, China controls the majority of the global rare earth supply chain. If geopolitical tensions rise, supply chains can be restricted overnight. The US sees Greenland as a way to diversify supply, secure domestic access, and reduce dependence on geopolitical rivals. From a business standpoint, this is about supply chain security, not speculation. Greenland is also believed to hold billions of barrels of oil and gas underneath its ice sheets and surrounding waters. For decades, extraction was impractical. It was too cold, too remote, and too expensive. But climate change has altered the equation. As ice recedes, access improves, exploration becomes feasible, and energy economic shift. This puts Greenland in the same category as other frontier energy plays, except this one is sitting inside NATO territory. Trump's view has been straightforward. If energy is going to be extracted from Greenland, the U.S. wants strategic oversight, secure partnerships, and long-term alignment. Because energy isn't just about fuel, it's about leverage. Now let's go over the new shipping routes that change everything. One of the least discussed, but most important, is aspects of Greenland shipping. As Arctic ice melts, new trade routes are opening. The Northwest Passage and other Arctic corridors can cut shipping distance dramatically, reduce transit times between Asia, Europe, and North America, bypass traditional choke points like Panama and the Suez. Whoever controls access to those global routes holds enormous influence over global trade. Greenland sits right along these emerging pathways. From a strategic standpoint, that makes it a 21st century maritime checkpoint. Now, owning it doesn't mean access, but owning it means setting the rules. In early 2026, tensions escalated. Trump floated tariffs up to 25% on Denmark and other European nations. The markets reacted, diplomats scrambled, and media coverage exploded. Then came the pivot. At meetings with other NATO leaders, Trump announced a framework for a future deal, not annexation and not an immediate purchase, but expand U.S. defense cooperation, joint minerals development, and long-term strategic agreements. In other words, a foot in the door. Publicly, the administration had emphasized partnership. Privately, they continue to signal interest in something more permanent. Let's look at the historical context. This is not something new. If this feels unprecedented, it shouldn't. The U.S. has done this before. Let's look at the comparison. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 and Alaska Purchase in 1867. Both were controversial, both were mocked, but they turned out to be generationally transformative. Greenland is roughly larger than Louisiana and larger than Alaska. History tends to favor countries who think long-term. Here's the key question. Is this about power or prevention? Is the U.S. trying to dominate Greenland or prevent others from doing it first? Trump's framing has been clear. From his perspective, Greenland has been too important to ignore, it's been too valuable to risk losing influence on, and it's been too strategic to leave undefended. Whether you agree or disagree, one thing is undeniable. Greenland is no longer just about ice, it's about leverage. If this video helped you, make sure you like and subscribe and share this video with someone who needs a clearer picture of what's really going on. Drop a comment below. Do you think this move makes strategic sense or does it go too far? And I'll see you in the next one.